Yes, yeah. Okay, so today is Tuesday, April 16th, 2024 at 6 o'clock, and we are starting the regular town council meeting for Virgin. And, we will start off with, the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Okay. Does anyone have a conflict of interest with anything that is on the agenda tonight? And I'll start with you, Misty. No. And I do not. Paul?
No.
April? No. All right, first thing is next thing is the consent agenda. And Paul has indicated to me ahead of time that he has issue with the minutes, so we will be putting off approval of the minutes.
Just the March
19. Okay, so you want to go ahead and approve the 20th and the 14th?
I'm ready for that if everybody else.
Okay, then why don't you go ahead and make the motion then on the consent agenda?
Are we separating the two, or should you want me to make a motion that, well, let's do it this way. I move that we remove the, March 19 minutes from the consent agenda, and they will fall between the consent agenda and the open forum, so that we don't.
What?
Yeah. Right after we do this. I moved it off the consent agenda, and we'll make us
Oh, okay, got it, I got it.
a C3 or between C and D.
Okay, so did you make a motion to
I did.
actually approve the consent?
No,
agenda?
I made a motion to remove the minutes, so. from the
Well, that
consent-
would be number, that would be E. All right, so, what about a motion on the consent agenda?
We need a second, well, we need a second.
I mean, the second. I second your motion.
And we should move on.
And we'll vote. Is everybody okay?
I'm not sure, wait, I'm not, no.
We're removing the March 19th minutes from the
Okay.
consent agenda.
I got that, that's all.
And that's it.
Oh, okay.
So, he motioned, I seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Now,
Now the consent agenda.
now I will move to approve the consent agenda consisting of approval of minutes for February 20th and for March 15th work meeting, March 14th work meeting, thank you, April, and approval of the checks and invoices for February and March.
I'll second that.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
All right. Now, before we move to open forum,
And then I
Oh,
make a
yes.
motion that we table the March 19th minutes until next meeting.
all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so now I need to move, under the updates and presentations under E. I had a presentation by Kendall Sagers, but I'm going to move that to right now. Kendall is a graduate student in the MPA program at SUU. And she has done as her capstone project a Parks and Recreation plan for Virgin, and she is going to, as part of her project, she has to present her plan to the town council. So I'm having her do this first, because as soon as she gets done here, she has to get home for a 6:30 class that she has. All right, Kendall. Oh, and for those of us who want to follow along with her, she submitted her plan, I put it up on SharePoint for everyone to be able to follow along as she talks about her plan. If you would like, would you want us to look at it while we're following along?
Sure, yeah, it's, so like you said, my name is Kendall Sagers and I'm a student at Southern Utah University at the MPA program. And I'm honored to have created this Parks and Recreation Master Plan for just Parks and Recreation Plan. So it's intended to update the existing parks and incorporate new park facilities. This plan is comprehensive, addressing existing conditions, future needs, priorities, levels of service, goals, and other components of the park system. This plan is intended to enhance the quality of life for residents in Virgin. This plan outlines the public input, parks and recreation facilities, goals and policies, park development priorities, as well as funding possibilities. And if you want to follow along, you can move down to the executive summary.
It's on, sure.
So within the executive summary, I've calculated the population of Virgin to be 703 residents with a population growth rate of 1.24%. The demand analysis focused on the desired or target level of service and the future level of service needed to maintain the current or existing level of service. Then the NRPA guidelines set a standard of cities having a level of service as 13 acres per 1,000 people. And Virgin has a level of service of 36.2 acres per 1,000 people. This is well over the NRPA guidelines. However, please note that these guidelines are geared more towards metropolitan areas and don't quite take into consideration the unique areas such as Virgin. But like I said, Virgin is well above these guidelines. If you would like, you can move down to the public input. This is just our introduction, analysis of area, showing that we're in Washington County.
It's on page 5.
I apologize.
Oh, sorry.
3 more pages, you're on 2.
You're on
Oh,
2, page 2.
We're looking at.
I wasn't sure if we were gonna have the whole thing up or not, so I do apologize to not have those page numbers ready in my mind. So in March of 2024, an informal internet survey was distributed to town residents via email and social media. In total, the survey received 113 responses, providing a decent sampling of the desires and needs of survey participants. 96% of the respondents are Virgin residents, which isn't terrible. And the survey asked a series of questions that centered around recreation, trails, parks, recreational classes, general feedback, etc. All of which can be found in the appendices. So outlined here are several age groups and what people like, what their recreation is, why they do or don't use the parks. And like I said, if you do want to look more into this, you can go into the appendices. The existing facilities that we've talked about include the town park, Heritage Town Square, Pocketville Hollow, which is also referred to as Pocketville Park within the plan, Falls Park, and the BMX track. It was noted that there are several pocket parks that do not have existing facilities, but they can be considered in future construction. And these are also in that acres per 1,000 people. If you'd like to go down to the goals and policies.
Let's see.
And that is page 14. So I divided the parks plan into goals and policies to meet satisfactory standards for existing and future parks and recreation within Virgin. Goal 1 is to improve maintenance and operations in parks with the policy 1.1, providing an annual budget allocation for park improvements and upgrades. And as you can see, I've included several implementation measures that you may want to consider when doing your goals and policies. If you skip to the next page, we have goal 2, which is to assure that Virgin's residents have access to parks and park facilities with a policy to maintain an exemplary level of service. Consider plan to development for future parks to accommodate accessibility for residents. And again, there's several implementation measures. Goal 3 is to promote the balanced distribution of parks, amenities, and facilities to serve the residents of Virgin. And this policy is, as existing parks are improved and new parks are developed, conduct frequent reviews of the parks master plan, monitor changing site conditions, wants, and needs to ensure that the location, design, and maintenance to each park is satisfactory to the needs and the surrounding neighborhoods and town. Again, I've included implementation measures. Park development priorities offer an overview for existing parks and future parks, including trails, mini parks, neighborhood parks, and community parks. This is on the next page. And this just goes over some of the suggestions if you wanted to include amenities for trails, mini parks, those neighborhood parks, and like I said, community parks. Lastly, on the next page, I found a list of funding possibilities, and these come from various channels such as the federal government grants, private foundations, and the potential to network with relevant communities and organizations such as Together Outdoors or Adopt a Park. Do you have any questions or comments?
I figured, Paul, you might have some questions, given how much you like, interested in having more.
I don't, partly because I'm unable to access that through SharePoint, so I wasn't able, I'm following the best I can up here.
Okay,
But,
I put it in the PDF documents on, okay,
oh, you did, okay.
okay.
But I don't have any right now. Maybe in the future I can get a hold of you if I do.
Yeah, definitely. If you could pass my email on to him. that would be
Okay, all right, I'll give everyone your email address if you have any questions. We may have you come back another time after school is done and you've graduated, and
Yes.
have you come back and give us a more detailed report.
Perfect.
That would, in fact, I would like to do that if that's okay with you.
Okay, sure, yeah, we can talk about the possibility of doing that.
Okay.
Okay,
Because this way you can go on and make your class at 6:30, and then we
Yeah.
can just have you come back another time for more detailed
okay,
presentation. Okay?
okay. Thank you so much for your
All
time,
right.
I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And I did find it, so I will look at it more closely.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
All right, so the next thing on the, next item on the agenda is open forum, so if anyone has any comments that would like to make for open forum, feel free to, and it's on anything that's not on tonight's agenda. If you're here for the budget, George, just wait till we get to the budget.
No, not the budget,
Okay,
not,
okay. Okay, so if there's no one on open forum, then we will move on and have Jean Garate present his report on the status of any projects going on in town.
no changes since last month, everybody with a application still working on it, and everybody that's got a permit is still working. So no C of Os or anything new.
Okay, but if you could still go
Would you
over,
like me to-
go, yeah, still go over the chart to remind
Okay.
everybody. Some people in the room here tonight were probably not here last month.
Gotcha.
Okay.
So the Flying Monkey Unplugged, which is, I'll kind of try to give a location as well. This is near Monty Lutz's house on the west end of town. Is, the design on it is to be 20 lodging units that are dome type lodging units is what they've presented in their preliminary. And they are working through the big ticket items, DOT, sewer, et cetera. So that's where they're at on that. We haven't heard from them for a while. The Labrie project is moving forward. Looks like they're building, at least the bottom half of it has finally been stuccoed or painted or whatever. Looks pretty nice. We drove by this morning. You can see the rock work on the bottom. That's moving forward afoot. Quail Mesa, haven't heard anything since last time. That is for a 22 lot subdivision up on, above, Rio de Sion. The Red Coyote project is for 20 lodging units. That's where the Red Coyote used to be before it was knocked down. And you can see pretty well as you drive by what's going on there. It looks like they've got their, water hookups and possibly sewer hookups started. Virgin Acres, Virgin Goods, he's named that project Virgin Acres. I think it's because he lives there, but that is, looks like it's gonna be a multi-use cafe, lodging, retail setup, and that one is still up in the air as to what exactly he's gonna do based on properties around him and setback requirements. Zion Park KOA is still moving forward. I see the same thing there, that I'm seeing that, Great Coyote, it's a little further along, looks like there are sewer and water hookups in place at this time. And they've got it leveled and are working forward on that. I talked to Mark Strictly last week and didn't have any problems. They're moving forward with their inspections and taking care of business. And then Zion White Bison has multiple things going on at the same time down there. But still moving forward with the things that they had in place, which was multi-use resort, RV park, lodging, gas station, restaurant.
Okay,
That's pretty much it.
all
Any
right.
questions with me?
So, Jean, last month you had said that White Bison was not allowed to dispose of their black water because the state regulations had changed. Do
Yes.
you know what exactly those regulations changed?
I don't, it was something that was being put on hold, they were gonna redo. Last I heard that White Bison had gone back and discussed with the state and said, you know, you changed stuff on us midstream, and they jumped their project to the front of consideration, but I haven't heard what the final result is on it, but they'll be moving forward pretty fast, sounds like, as far as getting the necessary approvals. For the time being, all of their RV units are blocked from dumping, and they have a hefty fine if they catch someone doing that.
So is that the division of water quality or division of environmental quality advice?
Whoever Paul Wright, Division of Water, is that what he was? He's the one that oversees anything like this. Any other questions I can answer for you?
I'm sorry, I was looking for an email when you were asking your question. Were you asking about the things being closed off so that no one could dump? Is that what you were asking?
I was, he had mentioned that the state rules had changed, and I was questioning what those rules were, what the rule changed.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and I don't know all of them. There was a bunch of stuff they changed. Some of it had to do with the lining, I believe, of the tanks, the holding tanks. That's kind of out of my, I'm not versed in that stuff.
Okay,
But I know that they got put on a temporary hold by the state.
all right, thank you.
Anything else?
Nothing from me?
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, and did you give a copy of? Okay. All right. Okay, so next,
So I have one more comment on this. I was thinking about it today. Do you think you could put a date on your, on this paper? Because last month you got one and I set it aside. and I'm
Yeah, that's
thinking,
good.
what date was
That would be
it?
helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll get that to you. Thank you.
okay, so we have two members of the Hurricane Valley Fire District that are here at tonight's meeting. We have Joe Decker, the fire chief, and he is going to introduce the new battalion chief.
Yeah.
Is that the title, battalion?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. For those of you who don't remember me, I'm Joe Decker and the fire chief, your guys' fire chief, right? I just wanted to come up tonight, introduce our new battalion chief, Tyler Ames. He was our administrative captain for the last 2 years. And we promoted, one of our other battalion chiefs to a deputy chief, took my role, and I moved up in the ranks. And he will be the one that will be representing the district up the 9 corridor. So he'll be coming to your guys' meeting probably once a month. And he's available for any questions you might have, and he can answer. And then I'm gonna try to make my rounds at least quarterly and be able to get to our next meetings.
Okay.
But Tyler?
Thanks a lot.
I'm Tyler Ames. I've lived down in Hurricane. I've been with the fire district. It's been 14 years. And then I've been in the fire service about 16 years. 12 I was with Washington City before that. So, I did my MPA through the SU program there a couple years ago. So, yeah.
Okay,
So I like seeing those, but anyways, yeah, I'll be available. I'm over A shift. We have a 3-platoon system. A shift's on today. So that's kind of who I'll oversee, but then I'll be up here and hopefully I can help out and just kind of be a resource and information if we've got questions about district and calls or anything like that. So,
All right,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Tyler. All right, so we are moving on. Next item is any council comments? Paul, any comments from you?
Yes, fire
Repeat it
report,
now.
it was just given by Joel and Tyler. I'm good, thank you.
April, any comments from you?
So I wanted to comment on the meeting that took place tonight with the county commissioners.
Yeah,
So they had listed that the Ash Creek was going to have a discussion with them about our resolution joining Ash Creek, and they never talked about it.
well, actually what happened is they finished up and because when I logged on, they were finishing up the meeting that started at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
And they were running overtime and they finished up and they said, okay, we're adjourning the meeting because we're all going to the fair. And then you could hear some chatter out in the audience and they said, oh, wait a minute, we're not adjourned. We still have to talk with, Mike from Ash Creek is here. And then the whole thing just terminated. I don't know if they had the Zoom set up with a time thing and it just terminated. But I sat and waited and they never came back, so they were going to be voting on our resolution. And I had gotten an email from Devin Snow where he said what is going to happen. Let me get this here. I said that the resolution is on their agenda tonight. And that is just the start of the process, that after this, after the resolution is adopted by the county commissioners, that a notice will then be published in the newspaper. And they will hold a hearing on June the 4th. This is a 60-day protest period that will be allowed as required under state code. After that, after the hearing on June 4th to see if there's any protests, then they will take final action. That would happen probably in August, and then after that, it goes up to the governor's office for the governor, the lieutenant governor, and then the attorney general to sign off. And then it will all be done.
That's correct. You know, what they're doing is amending the special service district's service boundaries. The special service district is a district that was created by the county. So it is actually the county who would do the amendment. They obviously want to know the consent or, make sure that there is consent to the expansion of the service areas to include Virgin. They simply went forward based off of the recommendation from Ash Creek to start the comment process. That doesn't, they can get either a formal protest or just comments from affected entities. Normally that would be other municipalities who are serviced by Ash Creek and or other large landowners who may be affected or not affected by this. But you have everything from school districts are considered to be an affected entity. And by state law, they have to give them 60 days before notice of the intent to possibly expand the boundaries. Then they have to have a public hearing on it. And only after that can they go through the more formal process of an ordinance expanding it, which then has to be formally approved not at a public hearing. It can be just at one of the county commission's meetings. And then it goes through the process of, it has to be reviewed and signed off and a certificate issued by the lieutenant governor's office. So it's a little bit of a process in the map. There's a formal map showing the service boundaries and it gets recorded in the county recorder's office along with a copy of the ordinance making the amendment to the service boundaries. I would tell you this, the county commission is not going to approve an ordinance unless and until they see something from the town saying, yes, we want this.
Which is what our resolution. Yeah.
Well, that we're willing to engage and start into the process. I think they want,
They want something else from
I
us
think
at
they
this
do.
point,
yeah,
and what will that be?
well, they want something, they want probably a secondary ordinance saying that we're assuming that they agree to expand the boundaries, that we'll agree to be as a municipality, be bound and allow the special services to be the sewer purveyor throughout the town.
So at this point, they can't act as body politic then until that process is completed.
Yeah. That's why they're working on it right now, so that it's not,
So Ash Creek presented to the Division of Water Quality the feasibility study for sewer in Virgin Town, then they wanted to fund about $7 million and have the sewer completed to the commercial, private entities that wanted sewer and have it completed in 2024.
And that was done without our knowledge. April was on a meeting with DWQ and called me and said, did you know they're doing this? And I said, no. I was completely unaware. And now you said there's another meeting coming up at the end of this month.
This month, yeah.
so
So,
that was to procure funding or start the process on them obtaining some state funding.
There was a
yes,
feasibility study and the discussion, as I was listening to the Zoom call, it almost indicated that they were ready to vote on it at that meeting, and then they postponed it until this month, which is the end of April,
That's,
or another.
so I don't see how they can do such a thing unless the town approves it. We haven't approved this.
oh, yeah, I mean, them doing a feasibility study is one thing, but then going through with acquiring funding and starting an extension up into town, unless and until their service boundaries are extended, or we have a written interlocal agreement with the service district to do so. I don't think they can
Okay.
and or should.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know, because if April had not been online watching that, I would have had no, well, actually, when I went to the board meeting for Ash Creek, when they were voting on our resolution, there was a presentation about what happened at the DWQ meeting, and that same day, and I was sitting there going, wow, thanks for letting us know that you were doing this. So,
Interesting.
yeah.
So how does that impact our, joining the Water Conservancy District then? If we're not really part of Ash Creek and they're required that we be
So we have until
September.
September 30th.
Yeah, this will be done. This process of amending the service boundaries of the district to include the town will have occurred by September.
Yes. According to what Devin Snow says, they'll have it done probably by August.
Yeah, that's my understanding, my conversations. And he's stayed on top of this, because it's the county's responsibility to do this. The Ash Creek cannot expand its own boundaries without the consent and approval, and it has to be initiated by the county. So they're trying to lay the groundstone so it can happen. I don't know that they would for sure need a second resolution, but I think that they need to feel very comfortable that everybody is still on board with it.
Yes, Paul, you want to say something?
No, I was thinking that they could bring up sewer up to our boundaries. They just need our consent.
To bring it any further?
Yeah, right.
Yes, yes.
And that could be
This-
part of what they've been doing for a while.
Well, no, this 7 million was to bring it through Virgin because they had calculated how many ERCs were commercial, how many ERCs there were in Virgin. And they were going to be charging so much per ERC to the different commercial entities in town. Because this was gonna be paid for purely by the commercial entities.
So it's
I don't know that the
anticipation.
commercial entities know about that.
So it's in anticipation.
You don't think that they know about that?
I'm not sure that the commercial entities know that this was, I have no idea. This was all a surprise to me and April
I
both.
would have to assume that some of the commercial entities are probably talking to the district and
Oh, well, I know one is for sure.
asking them to bring it up.
Yes, I know one is for sure.
You know, they don't have to expand their service boundary. A special service district can provide services outside of its boundaries, but it can only do so by interlocal agreement. And that's one thing that, conceivably the town can look at is saying, hey, we want to carve out and allow an expansion of one of their, you know, service lines and connections to it here in Virgin, but only in the commercial area. That wouldn't do us any good with meeting the requirements to join the regional water supply
No,
agreement,
no.
but it'd be one way to deal with it.
So George, as a business owner here in town, were you aware of this?
No, I was not.
Okay, thank you. All right, so, so all of this came up because of, you were talking about the meeting with the county commissioners and the county commission meeting, and today, April and I both attended, April by Zoom and me in person at the DTEC meeting. And one of the things that was main topic for discussion is the shuttle that is going to be coming from St. George up to Zion National Park. And they have anticipate that that will start in the month of July. They've chosen stops along the route, except for Virgin. They have not yet chosen where they want the site to go in Virgin. So I talked a little bit, I stepped out and talked with the guy who's in charge of this whole, shuttle. And he indicated that wherever they have a stop here in Virgin, there have to be acceleration and deceleration lanes in place where they can pull off to the side of the road and let people get on and then go on. They're not gonna turn off of Highway 9. And that only is, there's only two, I think, I counted as I came back from there today, there's only two places where we have acceleration and deceleration lanes on Highway 9 at the present time. So I think when this gets going, they may be just breezing right through Virgin with no stop. But I asked him to please come and talk to the town council so we can choose a location. And then he wanted, he was unaware of the master transportation plan that had been done by UDOT, and they talked about locations on that, so I'll be sending that to him. Okay, so, Ms. Lee, you have anything for council comments? Oh, by the way, I did get an answer about the letter that you want to send about.
I sent it.
Well, it goes to the county commissioners.
I sent it to them.
To them, okay, they're the only ones who will be making that decision. So I found that out today.
Who was it?
If the county commissioners, in conjunction with us, are the only people that will be making this decision that you were asking about.
Okay.
All right, so, we can move on now, if there's no other council comments. We can move on to the public hearing. So I need a motion to, let me explain before we go into this public hearing. I'm setting two public hearings about the budget for Virgin. The state code only requires one public hearing, and we are going to do that meeting, which is required by state code, next month in May. But I wanted to go ahead and be sure that the public has plenty of opportunity to be aware of what's going on with the budget and to make any comments if they have any comments about the budget. So what was posted online was the budget that we had proposed as of April 4th. That was what was posted online. So if anyone has any comments about that, feel free to come to after we open the public hearing, you guys can come up and make any comments if you have any. But in the meantime, we have made a few changes to this proposed budget. So I will take a motion to open the public hearing.
I'll make a motion to open the public hearing.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Anyone in the room have any comments about our proposed budget that we posted online on April 4th? Okay, this is what usually happens in our budget public hearings. No one has any comments, but we have to go through the motions. Okay, so since there are no comments, no public comments, I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
Before you close
Okay.
that public hearing, I kind of view this as the mayor's budget right now,
Okay,
because this is what the mayor proposed. And then pursuant to statute, us as town council then will have to schedule the next meeting and make changes to this one. And then that will be at the next hearing.
and that's what I propose that we will talk. I have that code up here for me to look at. And when we get to the discussion of the proposed budget down here and we make some changes and talk about adoption, then I will discuss the next hearing. Okay, all right. Is that satisfactory?
No, that's just how I was doing it, was
Okay,
today's was the mayor's budget, and we'll make amendments to it
okay, good enough.
eventually, and that will go to as a final budget.
Okay. So I will take a motion to close the public hearing.
I'll move to close the public hearing.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, all right. So we will be discussing the budget later in the meeting. So I'm going to move on with the ordinances that we have wanted to adopt. Or the ordinance and 2 resolutions that we discussed at our work meeting. So, ordinance 2024-07 is a code of conduct. And this code of conduct applies to how town officials interact with town employees. And then rules of decorum and civility between town officials and town employees. And then there is second part, which is standards of conduct for members of the public and rules of decorum and civility for members of the public. And with regard to members of the public, this has to do with interactions in meetings and then outside of public meetings with town officials or town employees. And then there's a section discussing enforcement, how to enforce the rules. And that's it. And we had discussed at the work meetings some changes, some edits that you proposed, Paul.
Yeah, and
And these are not in here,
I
so
put them up on share.
you did.
Yes. But I
As
can
a-
go
as
through
a-
it again quickly as.
You might as well go through them again because Keith is not aware of the proposed changes that you have.
Did you put them under the PDF or the Word?
No, I put it, as a separate Word document.
So
Not
it's on
in here, it's just in the April work, regular meeting.
Oh, I see that.
You made comments on those.
Yeah, I put the reasoning that we discussed at the last meeting.
In the regular meeting and then the Word documents.
Yeah,
That's where it is.
It's not in Word, it's separate, so it's separate.
Oh, separate file. Oh, possible amendments. Okay, there it is. Okay. Any thoughts from you, Heath, on his proposed changes or edits by Paul? we talked about them at the work meeting, and I don't think any of us had any objection to these proposed changes. But we were gonna wait to see what your thoughts were.
I don't have, I'm looking at them, and I appreciate the way that it's set out, yeah, I don't have a problem, I don't know that I fully agree that the elimination of, offensive communications. I understand it could be vague, but I think it's pretty clear, but when something is offensive, what was the old term,
You know what we're seeing?
yeah, that, they cited, the Supreme Court cited, and you know, when you see it.
Pornography.
Yeah, that was pornography, but still,
You know,
I think the same thing happens.
you know what we hear.
Yeah,
Yeah, that changes.
Yeah.
Just-
and I think it's all covered, either way.
Yes. I agree.
I wasn't
The
gonna,
purpose, the spirit of it.
yes,
So I'm fine with all of it.
All right. So if no one has any, if no one's mind has been changed since, our work meeting on Thursday, then I will take a motion to approve the ordinance with the proposed changes. Paul's proposed changes.
I'll make a motion to approve the ordinance 2024-07 with the, including the changes that, Paul made.
Second.
Document.
All in favor?
Aye.
I,
Okay. Next is a resolution. A resolution to appoint Rod Mills and Galloway as the Virgin Town engineer. We discussed this also at the work meeting last Thursday, and we all seemed in favor of this. Has anyone changed their mind since then?
I move for approval of resolution R 2024-H.
Aye.
I. So it's H.
H on the agenda.
I on the actual resolution.
The actual resolution is I.
Okay, so on the agenda, so.
I know the agenda says H, but it's I.
Resolution 2024-I, appointing Rod Mills as our town engineer.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Are we doing it as I or you?
It's I.
Aye.
I was very careful before I typed I on there. I went down and looked at all the resolutions.
You have it on the agenda as being adopted first, so we're technically the H. But the resolution says I, the agenda says H.
I see that the resolution, so what do you want us to do? We already have a resolution.
We already approved it as I, so we can adopt the next one as H.
Yeah.
We already have an H. That's why I adopted this, that's why I numbered this I. There's already an H. I went through the resolution book. There's an H.
Okay, then you need to adopt the next one as
J.
J.
Yes, and it is on here as J.
Which one was H?
I have to go back and look.
Oh, so I didn't have it in.
It was in the book. It may not have been in your sheet, but it's in the resolution book. And if I'm wrong, we'll do an H. Next one. Next some other time.
Non-chronological.
Okay. So the next one is I got answers. So at the next resolution, which is R 2024-J, which is a resolution joining the Washington County Water Conservancy District 2019 revised regional water supply agreement. At the work meeting, we had 3 more questions that came up, and I sent an email and got an answer to 2 of the 3 questions. And the questions were: does Virgin continue to bill the water customers once we join the regional water supply? And the answer is yes, we're still in charge of the billing. The next question was, does Virgin follow up with collecting on unpaid water bills, or does the Water Conservancy District? Again, that is Virgin that will do that follow-up. And the third question was, when standby customers are in arrears, does Virgin work with them to get them up to date? Or the Water Conservancy District, and that one, they still have to tell us who's the one who will be doing that.
Okay, answer that question for you.
Go ahead.
Being a member of the Regional Water Supply Agreement means that it's an agreement to buy water from the district. We are still a retailer of the water to our residents. And as such, we're simply buying water wholesale from the district, we're retailing it through our system. The district doesn't own our water delivery system, the town does. They simply have a connection to the town system, and they can put water into our system. So in that regard, we have to still, just like any water retailer would, we have to bill our residents. We have to, make sure that if there are people who should be paying outstanding standby fees and there's an arrearage, or even arrearage on just normal service fees, we have to deal with that as the water retailer. We are the purveyor of culinary water here in the town. We're simply just buying culinary water wholesale and having it delivered into our system by the district.
Yes, and that's why I was pretty sure that the answer, I even said in my email to him that I was fairly certain I knew the answer to this, but I need to clarify. But the reason we were questioning about the standby is because what came out in our discussions with Zach is that when someone is in, has not paid for a year on their standby fees, they are going to consider that abandoned, and they are going to.
So that's the way the district does it, when they charge standby fees in areas where they have the water. And we may want to adopt that type of policy as a town. Because if someone gets that far, we want to create a deterrent that someone doesn't just let it go years and years in arrears and somehow has the ability to pay it and come back into good graces. For us, we've been, if you think about it from this perspective, if we're not collecting the standby fee, that doesn't mean we're not paying it to the district. We're basically
Subsidizing.
giving that end future end user a loan. And as a municipality, we shouldn't be giving any loans. We're prohibited by state law and the municipal code to give loans out. And so that's why we shouldn't allow people to get too far in arrears before they lose their right to what that fee was that they're getting by paying this fee. So I think what Zach was telling you is this is how the district does it. Unincorporated areas of the county where we're the service provider. And I think it's good policy. I would agree with that too on standby fees.
Yeah, we've definitely had some people that have been unpaid for years.
And while they've done that, we've paid that fee
Yes.
every month to the district.
Correct.
Can I ask a quick question? Is that okay? No?
No, I'll let you, go ahead.
Oh, I'm just wondering, will the town be developing any new water resource, or will we be totally relying on the district?
Totally relying on the district.
Totally relying on the district, and if the district.
I mean, we could develop some other water sources, we could buy some water rights still if we wanted to. But.
Yeah, but if any changes to the updated regional water supply agreement happens, we will be prohibited from doing so.
Okay,
Under the current version, the 2019 version, we can't, but they've made it very clear, they don't want anybody competing with them. And frankly, to answer your question, as a small municipality, we don't have the ability to go and bid with the big boys. Fill out this every day or week, twice on Sundays, so. Realistically, that's where we have to hitch ourselves to, or because the likelihood of us being able to acquire substantial enough water rights to have any meaning or of any size worthwhile to bond for and build wells, pump stations to get it into our system, you know, we're gonna be hard pressed to do that, especially up this corridor. So,
Okay, so when I drafted the resolution, I put under the resolution now therefore, I put in here the terms that are in the levy agreement that we would have to sign. So is that proper for that to be in this resolution if you look at it, or should I take them all out and just leave number one?
yeah,
Okay,
and you say approval of the agreement. It is essentially approval of the overall agreement, it's approval of the addendum. to-
Yes.
But, yeah, I don't think that you need to have, and I probably wouldn't even recommend us trying to, because if we misstate it in
Okay.
any sort of way, I'd rather have the actual regional water supply agreement be the clarifying thing, so just say that we're approving the addendum in the agreement. Or you can basically just keep one.
so they changed the name of it, it's in the file. Kristen may have to show it to you, well, I have a copy here, the most recent thing that they sent to us, they changed it from, previously it was called an addendum, and it says amendment, I'll show you. And that's why I use that term in the resolution.
I don't have a problem with, and I'm seeing that,
Yeah. Okay.
yeah, first draft said addendum, and this one says.
Okay, so what we will be doing then for resolution J is you deleting 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
Yeah, 2 through 6.
2 through 6 will be deleted. I want to erring on the side of caution and put it all in with the expectation it'd be a lot easier to delete. Delete what you don't want than to try to add. Okay, so is there any discussion among the town council members on this?
So we've been told several times that we will not be required to pay back from the conditions precedent, which is item 6.9. And I would feel a lot more comfortable if we had something in writing.
I propose that we approach them and ask them if we could take that out there. And we discussed this not last, I think it was last town council meeting, whether to approach the board and ask them if we could remove this section. And you had recommended that we not do that.
Only because the board has already voted and approved the signing, authorizing Zach Redstrom as the general manager to sign this amendment. As it sits right now, if we go back and ask them to change, we are exposing ourselves to any other change. And we have now seen the board, as it's been presented to them, they've come back and tweaked it twice. And we don't want any other tweaks to it. I understand what you're saying, April, this is just one of those things where I'm not saying that wanting to put it in there is wrong, it's completely right. I mean, that's a good thing to do. We need to balance that with, do we want to expose the town to any new and additional conditions? And it just seems to me like that district board, they hear enough from their constituents and stuff in the interim between meetings that it's like, are we trying to hit a moving target here? Or right now we have a target that's fixed because they approved it. So that's the only reason why I would have a little bit of hesitance.
And when I talked with Zach, the meeting before, when I took you with me, the meeting before that, I asked him about this and he just indicated that they considered that a non-issue about us actually paying that penalty, that we would be able to use the money.
Couldn't we get a letter, anything? I mean,
Yeah, I could see about a letter from Zach or from, their general counsel, see if they could, if they would write something like that. I will tell you this, since the regional water supply agreement has been in place, either the 2007 version or the 2019, there's been 2 municipalities that have been allowed to join. And neither of them were charged or had to pay a levy course. And Jody Richard, their general counsel, has stated in their board meetings, she doesn't even know how that money is supposed to be allocated somehow. It's not even retained by the district to be used in other district projects. It's supposedly, it's her interpretation from the regional water supply agreement that it's supposed to be distributed back to the other members of the pool agreement. And she stated, we don't even know how we would accomplish that, how it would be done equitably. And so there's not a lot of guidelines. And so they've been, that's what they're saying. Now, whether or not they do it for us, I don't know. And like I said, it'd always be great to have it writing. As an attorney, I would say, get it writing. But
When I was at the advisory council, presenting to them, I think we brought this up when you and I were at the board meeting. And then when I went to the advisory council meeting and I proposed that the penalty be waived, they all seemed in agreement because I indicated that we would more than likely be using the water to replace leaking water pipes. Therefore, we would be using the water to the money
to the money
to save water.
effectuate water.
Yes. And so they all seemed that, they had no problem with that. It's just that this agreement does not reflect what was,
We anticipate
that one
that
thing.
to be right around $200,000.
Yeah.
I want to just tell you that district hands out $200,000 water conservation grants all the time, to people. So, you know what I mean? They give grants, they're like a pass-through entity for various types of state and federal funding, and it gets passed on to municipalities all the time. So the fact that they would be giving up, it's not even their right, they're not gonna keep it, they just indicated, and the board has the authority to make that determination, the Conservancy District's board. They may not have that authority if these new changes come into place, it may be all of us and the other municipal customers.
Another alternative, instead of requesting a letter, would be just to write them, to say, it's our understanding, X, Y, and Z. If you disagree, please
Let us know.
let us know.
Or let me make one more suggestion is we send a letter to Zach and to Jody, their general counsel, saying the council approved the resolution subject to the condition that they receive some sort of written acknowledgement that the late joiner fee has been, will be waived, is waived. Would you please send me an email confirming that? And if they know that just simply that email is enough to effectuate the resolution that's now been adopted on both sides, or we're done to deal with that's acknowledged somehow, right? And then I like that, because if they ever came back and asked for it, said,
Yeah,
the general manager said, here, right here, tonight.
okay, because I let them know this was on the agenda tonight for a vote, and they've asked to be told, advised what happened, tomorrow. So we can send them an email tomorrow saying exactly what you're suggesting. So it would be a motion to approve, subject to,
Obtaining written confirmation that the late comer fee is waived.
Want further discussion?
No, I do not have any further discussion, anything from Misty?
My comment is, I was the only no vote on the sewer. And a lot of people contacted me about not voting for this agreement because they're afraid or concerned that it will bring uncontrolled growth to the town. And I think that ship has sailed once we approve the sewer. And it's not this agreement that's gonna bring the growth that we're gonna have to manage. It's the sewer, which we've already made that decision on. Water is the lifeblood of community. We're starting to see it now. When you start to see what happens in Arizona with communities not getting water, not being able to receive water. I think the community in the long run will die when I'm making this decision. I'm in favor of it because I'm looking 5 years, 10 years, 30 years down the road. And as he says, we can't compete with the big dogs on the water. And actually, water is the new gold of the US right now. So I will be voting in favor of this. A ship has sailed. We just now have to learn how to control the growth in a smart way and provide water to the community. And I think that's the critical decision.
And that is what Zach said when, April and I went and met with him to get April's questions answered. One of the questions had to do with growth, and he's like, it's up to town, you guys control your growth, it's up to your zoning. It's up to you, it's not up to them. But I do wanna say this about this, joining the, regional water supply agreement. When the 1997 water supply agreement with the Water Conservancy District was signed between Virgin and the Water Conservancy District, it was expected that the 1,000 water connections we had would last for quite a long time, which is what you brought up in the meeting that we had before the board. After this contract was signed in 1997, in the town code, it was put in place that anything involving commercial development had to bring their own water to town. And this was to protect the 1,000 water connections to be for residential only. And that way they would have lasted a very long time. The previous administration removed that requirement from the town code and then sold water connections to commercial development. And most of the connections that have gone have been because of commercial development and them not bringing their own water. So it's unfortunate that we are now in this position because of the water going to pay for commercial. Yet it's one of, so I just wanted to make that clear that it's just unfortunate that we're in this position. Had we still required businesses to bring their own water, we would probably not be here. But there we are. But now we're at a point where we have to do, as Paul suggested, looking for the future and down the road, we've got to provide water for the town. And so we have no option but to proceed this way.
So after our meeting with Zach, I did a list of positive and negative pros and cons of how it would have impacted the town if we joined the Water Conservancy District. And after talking with Zach, there were a lot of things that I found were positive. For example, and we talked about it at the work meeting, one thing was that they will take do engineering calculations on how many ERCs a commercial project will actually be using. Because right now it's kind of a private engineer that takes a look at that for a client. And so the tendency is for some of these engineers is to kind of reduce the amount of water that they're projecting that this commercial facility will use. And the Water Conservancy District will review that. And there's been cases where they've found that the commercial entity, the design is woefully, less than what it really should be. So that was a positive. There's other positives. I just ran through a list as an engineer that I found a lot more positives to joining the Water Conservancy District than negative. So I suppose I'll be slowly join.
When the mayor and I were posed the question by the district's board, why now?
Yeah.
One of the reasons why we said now was because of us looking at the landscape of acquiring water rights and the cost of constructing additional water infrastructure to procure the water right, especially if it's a subsurface right, it becomes very hard for municipality. When you've got this district out here who is extremely well funded and they're building water projects regionally throughout the county and even outside of the county, like, transporting water down from Cedar Mountain down here into Washington County. They are likely the ones who can develop water sources and acquire water rights more easily than anybody else. I know that there's always that concern that it puts us beholden to them, but the reality is that we can't compete with them anyways, either from an efficiency standpoint or from a water acquisition standpoint. So that's what I told the board why we're there. And we essentially were acknowledging, oh, you guys are so much better than us type of thing, kind of to butter, but it's truth and it's a reality. So
They have a different schedule for reduction of water, if you are, in case of a drought, if you aren't part of this agreement.
oh, yes,
too.
yeah, and we're treated equally. That's the thing that I've always enjoyed about the regional water supply agreement, because I've always represented small municipalities. And we are on equal footing with the biggest of the big boys in the county. When they implement water rationing in the event of drought and scarcity, it's equally to the city of St. George as it is to my municipalities. So in that sense, I think it's a really good thing to get that same protection, which if you read the 97 agreement, they could interpret that completely different and basically ration us down to next to nothing, while in a sense utilizing the existing water that they do have left in the drought and let it be used by the Washington City Island, St. George, Santa Clara, those guys.
We also get a seat at the table.
You do?
And if we don't do it, we don't get to input. So I make the motion that we adopt resolution 2024 J, Juliet J, for the town of Virgin to join the Washington County Water Conservancy District, subject to obtaining the written confirmation, I'm speaking today, written confirmation of latecomers fee is waived pursuant to discussion we had with our town attorney.
You want to remove these.
Oh, yeah, and yes, and remove, thank you, April, and remove, paragraphs 2 through 6, wasn't it?
Yes.
2 through 6 of the current resolution.
I second. We'll do a roll call vote on this. So I'll start with April.
Aye.
Paul.
Aye.
Misty. And Jean, aye.
Can I ask one more question now that you all agreed to it?
Okay,
Quickly, will water costs for residents go up with this change?
only for new people.
Only for new? Okay.
That, we got that question answered. That was one of our questions a couple weeks ago with them. They
Okay,
said only new people.
all right, thank you.
Okay. Now, before we go on, I had something I was gonna say. I was waiting for this to be done. I was going to say it now, of course. What was I going to say?
So Jamie, can I clarify real quick?
Yes.
Water rates for usage are still dictated by the town and can be adjusted.
Yes.
Fee schedules are adjusted. The impact fees is what will be dictated by the district.
Yes.
Thank you.
And the town, we, as a town, once we have that impact fee study done, the town will probably need to raise our impact fee. It's awfully low. Okay, I do not
I
remember.
thought that was automatic once you join them.
No, well,
The towns.
we have to collect the district's impact fee.
Okay, that's separate.
Plus, we already have our own impact fee because we have some of our own water, we have our water infrastructure costs.
The maintenance. and
Yeah.
stuff.
So when people come in to get a building permit, there's two
We're
impact
paying
fees
two
for
water
water.
impact fees.
One for the water conservancy district, one for the town. And the
Ours
water,
is much smaller.
yeah,
Oh, they're going to raise their impact.
and ours has not.
Ours is like 4,195.
That's the best deal in town.
That's the best deal with the town.
I wonder why we must have built.
Well, and you also know they have built into their capital facilities plan that their impact fee rating is by like 10% every year,
Yeah,
automatic. We
it'll
don't even
be,
have to vote on it, just automatic increase.
Well, I think that's why a lot of people want to come and build here is because our impact fees are so.
and part of this agreement is we have to start collecting the impact fees tomorrow.
Yeah.
Once we have approved this, I sign it, we start with the new impact fee. Although my understanding is actually we will not be collecting the Water Conservancy District's impact fee. Everybody
That has
now
been a
goes
risk.
to the
We used
Water
to collect
Conservancy.
it. Now what they want, so that there's better tracking, they actually go down to the Conservancy District and pay the district their impact fee and give them a receipt, and we just need to get
The
a
receipt.
copy of the receipt or confirmation that it's been paid before we approve it.
So how does that affect the availability? Or it does not?
Well, they pay the impact fee and then they,
Yeah.
That
Those
should
will
matter.
not be subject to the extra receipt.
Yeah, they shouldn't have to, if they've already.
no, the people they're paying standby fee now, you mean?
Yeah,
Is that what you're asking?
just the user.
What the Water Conservancy District is doing right now is going through with Crystal every single parcel in town and verifying if they did or did not pay the impact fee.
Yes.
And so, I don't know that they found any yet that have not paid the
I
impact.
don't know, I haven't heard anything.
Okay, but that's what they're doing.
Under the 97 agreement, it was $1,500 impact fee for the district, and we collected our own. So it was a really good deal for a long time. Where they're saying if someone hasn't paid the standby fee or paid the impact fee, then they're gonna be treated just like a new development. They have to pay our current impact fee and their.
Yes, Brian?
I also been here since the 1800s. I probably didn't pay it.
Oh, I suspect
Well,
it doesn't matter, you're.
But you have an active meter, correct? Huh? You have an active meter?
See,
Then-
and so the district looks at that, and the city, the town looks at that too and says, there's no new impact
Okay.
to our water system by the fact that you're still using water, and that impact's been considered and contemplated.
So even though it's changed from what it was in 1970. I was thinking, we're taking out the river.
So what was that, Candace?
I'm good.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if that was something we all needed to know. Okay, Mark,
I promise, last question.
okay.
You said,
Hold you to that one.
go on, no boring. Anyway, you said that the new residents would pay more for water than existing residents, if I understood you correctly. Is that
They'll pay a higher impact fee.
just the impact?
And then the overage fee, when they go over a certain, number of gallons. Right now, for current people, it's $1. Their fee is gonna be $10 for
1,000
every
gallons.
1,000 gallons that they go over.
Isn't that a bit discriminatory though, when you've got current residents and then
No.
that would seem to be subject to a.
Well, if you think about it, we're the water retail. We're only simply buying water from them. And so we have to make sure our rates are not, that as a town, we're not subsidizing our water rates.
Yeah,
Okay, so if our cost of acquiring water goes up, we need to raise our water fee, right?
yeah.
Or reduce the allocation, how much water you're allocated under the base rate. So whenever that happens, it's going to be applied equally to everybody. Does
Okay,
that make sense?
yeah. as
It's
long as
not gonna be a tiered rate for certain people. It'd be almost impossible to track that. Candace is sitting there going,
Don't even.
I'm a CPA and I can't figure out how.
No, that didn't make sense to me, so thank you for the clarification, yeah.
Okay, so that's done. I still haven't remembered what it was that I was going to say after we pass that. And, it'll probably come to me tonight, after we're all done. I'll probably wake up in the middle of the night and go, oh yeah, that's what it was. All right, so we only have 2 things left on the agenda here. One is to talk about the, CCNRs for Sierra Bella. And, there is a question that has been asked about these CCNRs that were adopted April 8th, 2022, or they were recorded at the county April 8th, 2022. And on page 6 of the CCNRs, in section 3.3, it says, to the extent Virgin allows it, lots 1, 2, 3, 4, 13, 14, 15 shall be permitted to be nightly rentals. And the question that has been asked is, will the town allow? Basically. Would you say that that is the question, will the town allow? Yes. So I have indicated that, in my opinion, the town will not allow, because this violates section, chapter 60.02 that indicates where short-term rentals are allowed in subdivisions, and it only allows short-term rentals in subdivisions, new subdivisions that were platted after the adoption of chapter 60.02, which was adopted in, I believe, February 2018. And Sierra Bella was platted probably to, I don't know when it was platted, it's either 2006, 2007. And this is not a new subdivision, it was platted before 2018. And it's not capable of getting the short-term rental overlay zone. So to me, the town, it will not allow these lots to be nightly rentals. That's my opinion. Anybody else?
Plus, we just passed an ordinance that prohibits short-term rentals in rural residential areas.
So, that is what we discussed at our work meeting, last Thursday. But Keith, you were not there, and so I wanted to get your legal opinion
I
on
looked
this.
at the language of the CCNRs, and I think even the CCNRs themselves are clear to the extent that it is allowed by the town. And so then we look to our ordinances, and it's pretty clear based off of our current ordinances, nightly rentals are not allowed in the rural residential zone. They are allowed in a new subdivision as long as the CCNRs contain provisions which allow for it, and that is approved. It is a zoning overlay. And we don't have either of those situations here. I even took the opportunity to look at the plats when they were recorded and look at the language on the plats to see if there's anything like that on the recorded plat itself. And there's no reference to certain lots being allowed in the plat notes or anything like that. So to answer the question, we don't, it's not allowed by the town. And I don't see a way, based off our current ordinances, that we could allow it in that zone unless we changed our whole section 60.02. Which would,
Okay, so is that enough for you, or do you think you need something in writing from the town?
I believe there'll be something in writing per their council
Okay,
today,
okay,
they feel otherwise.
okay. All right, then we'll have Keith write something for us, advising on that. How soon do you need that? Like tomorrow?
That'd be awesome. Just, there's any grandfather issues and an existing nightly rental. And it being an older subdivision.
be singular in use. There's a legal non-conforming use that was allowed. And now it's not allowed. You have to show how those new lots are somehow grandfathered. They don't have structure. So I'm happy to write it and explain it. So.
So, yes, and that house was allowed pursuant to the settlement of a lawsuit years ago. And that's why that one was allowed to do that, pursuant to a lawsuit settlement. Okay, so we will get you a letter. Okay. All right, then that just moves us to the last item for the public meeting, and that is to discuss the proposed budget. So when we had our meeting on Thursday, Paul had some suggestions on things, and Paul, I was telling, I have Candace here to answer any questions that you guys have about the budget. She is the expert. How long were you how long did you do all the books for Virgin? 20 years?
I've been here for 15 years and all but the last 4, I've been actively here every 2 weeks.
All right, so Paul, I was asking her, I told her that you had asked about appropriated fund balances for, I know you gave me the code, or you were wondering about putting money aside for, capital improvement projects. And so I told, Candace that you had some questions on that.
And that was pretty simple, and I was gonna go meet with either Sil or Candace later on between now and the budget hearing to discuss it, but since you're here, you know, there's a provision in state law that allows us to take excess revenue and put it into an account for capital improvements. And I think it used to have a 75% limitation, but if you put it in for capital improvements, there's no limitation on the excess balance. And my thought is what we need to do is start creating that account. I don't know what number it is, but it's pursuant to our capital improvements policy, create that account, starting to fund that account for future capital improvements. Which means either taking excess revenue or budget revenue and putting it in. And then when it's needed for a particular capital improvement, it can go out for that specific capital improvement.
Yeah, so the town has 3 funds, so you have your general fund, you have your capital project funds, which is road, parks, and water, and then you have water's kind of in water, so then you have your proprietary fund or your business fund, I call it your business fund, your water fund. If you choose and make budget recommendations to transfer funds from the general fund to a capital fund, that's where it has to sit and live and breathe and then be used. And so typically, it is our recommendation that the best finding you can have from your auditor in the whole world is that you have an excess fund balance, okay? All that means is the state says that you can't have more than this amount of savings, but there's no actionable item that the state will do or anybody can do because you have excess fund balance in your general fund. But what it does allow you to do is if you have something that comes up like a road that needs to be repaired, that's gonna be $100,000, you have the excess funds to do that project. Versus if you transfer it actively to the capital facilities plan or the capital fund, it has to live and breathe there and you can't bring it back, or it's substantially harder to bring it back into the general fund to use for general purposes like parks, roads, office. So you absolutely have the choice to budget and to do transfers from the general fund to the capital fund. But I typically recommend that when you have a particular project that exceeds your current impact fee balances and not before. Does that make sense?
Keep it outside of that fund, because once it goes in, it's like a black hole, it can't come back out. And we have some other sort of municipal emergency where we need to make a large expenditure. And we've already put it in the capital,
You can't pull it out.
we can't pull it back out. Also, I would tell you too, that technically we should be probably identifying when we're making budget transfers like that it's in there, the purpose of the transfer. I mean, I don't know that it's critical or state code, but it should be for it should be for items that are identified in your capital facilities plan, public improvements plan. Just like the same plan that you're basing your impact fees off of.
If I understand you right, maybe we can talk between now and later, but you mentioned, or there's the capital improvements plan fund, but you're talking about an excess fund. Is that a separate?
So what the state says is that your general fund is made up of fees and taxes, and things like that, right? And so your general fund is, and they don't want you to overtax or overfee your population. And so they strive to help you do that by dictating that you can only have a certain fund balance carrying forward. And that is based on your budget. That's based on if I budget $1 million, I can only carry forward 300,000.
So one of the exceptions is this excess fund that you can create for capital improvements.
Correct, but once you create the excess fund, so I'm over by $100,000, okay? And I choose to transfer that $100,000 from my general fund to my capital facilities plan fund, to my
Capital facilities excess.
Access fund.
Right,
But
you can only be three, yeah.
But it essentially now lives in the impact fee world, right? It lives and breathes over here in my capital projects. And now all I can ever do with that $100,000 that we budgeted to transfer is a capital project. So if we have a fire, I don't know that fire would work, but if you have a catastrophe and you have to replace something that would be normally paid for out of your general fund, you now do not have that $100,000 as a source to do
Right.
replacement.
Right, so what we have is a particular fund that if we're above the revenue we're collected, that money goes into a reserve fund.
No, we just keep it in our
Yeah, we
general
just keep it
fund,
in
and we get a finding on our audit that we have more in savings than what we should have, which is essentially in the world of audit.
It's doing
a little
it's
slap.
doing a little bit, it's doing the same thing without.
Tocqueville gets that same audit.
Yeah.
That's in the 16 years old, and then,
So it gives us more flexibility if we just keep it in the
yeah.
general
Right.
fund.
If,
That's accurate.
and what she says, it has to dwell in the world of impact fees. Impact fees cannot be used for operation and maintenance of your existing public infrastructure. It can build new infrastructure that is needed because of new growth. Your operation and maintenance costs need to be paid for out of your fees, your user fees. Does that make sense? Well, what happens if our water system has say the water tank has a monumental failure, has to be completely replaced? Okay, that's not caused by growth. And that may not be on our capital facilities plan, but in a matter of 1 year, we're gonna have to come up with a whole bunch of money. Maybe let's not say water tank, because that's millions of dollars. Let's say we have a couple of catastrophic breaks in some of our water lines, okay? Which we should be repairing those out of funds we have in the water account. We don't have the money to do it, okay? If we had excess money, but we had moved it into this excess capital improvement fund that you're talking about, we can't use it for that. Yeah.
Because it would no
No,
longer
I
be.
understand that, especially with respect to capital improvements, related to impact fees that you collected. I think what comes into this discussion a little bit that muddies it is we have a capital improvement program or policy that we determine certain improvements that are defined as a capital improvement, different than what state law does. So some of the maintenance and some of the, doesn't have to be pursuant to a facility study. We do make those improvements based on our capital improvements policy. But I think the same principle you're saying is you want to draw that from the reserve fund rather than a separate capital. Separate fund.
A reserve within our general.
Yes, reserve within our, well, we would have three because we have some improvements would be related to water, some improvements would be related to parks. And then the rest of them will be related to general fund. So you would just make a transfer from the reserve fund
But
to,
we don't really have a reserve fund, is what you were saying. It's really just the general fund with excess funds in it, correct?
That's how I've lived and breathed it for this many years. I've not done any sort of restriction or designation that this is for X.
so what did we do with the water tank on those particular funds? How did we, when we were saving those?
So we had a land sale that we left in the water department. And because the water department is separate from the general
Right.
funds, it will never get an excess fund balance and is not part of that finding. Because we treat it like it's a proprietary fund, it's supposed to fund itself, and it can actively accumulate wealth to pay for improvements and or repairs.
Yeah, let's visit between now and the next budget meeting. I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
And I do understand the concern, and maybe we're seeing the same thing now. It's just a matter of how we deal with it.
Yeah.
All right, so what I have written down, so what I wrote down that we talked about at the meeting on Thursday was what you just talked with Candace about. And then also that you would like to put into the budget a stipend for capital improvements committee members, those that are not part of the town council. Our planning commission that already get paid, a stipend for the emergency manager. One thing that I cannot find the notes that I had with all of my numbers. They were there the day Becky came in and did a little training on learning how to do the budget, and I haven't seen them since. And I'm like, what did I do? Somewhere in my office. But we put in the salaries to pay the town treasurer. Next year, the salary for a code enforcement officer, we did not put in anything for the emergency manager. So I had indicated at Thursday's meeting that I need to talk with Brandy and see what we were going to come up with us to pay him. You also wanted to know whether or not it was possible for us to afford both a town manager and a town planner at the same time. Although we've talked some since then about whether or not we could hire someone who does both jobs. And then also you wanted us to put in the budget, the sewer fund that you had wanted, the sinking fund you wanted to set up.
I thought Leroy did that, $1,000 per month.
He did talk to Sil about that. I do not know where that would show.
And I haven't had a chance
Okay,
to find out where it is, but I know Leroy was gonna talk to Sil about that.
okay.
And then eventually we gotta come up with a resolution how on that particular
fund.
fund.
Okay. We'll follow up and ask Sil about that.
And with that, yeah, Leroy and I decided just, start off with $1,000 to get the fund going. Well, we're gonna have to figure out how much we're gonna need, what it's gonna be used for. That's the fund to kind of offset individuals that when the sewer comes in and are mandated to provide sewer, we're there to provide them the assistance so they can afford it. And what that looks like, we need to develop. And I don't want to wait till 5 years, 10 years from now. We want to have the money in place. So we're kind of ahead, trying to put the money now, and then we'll work on the framework for that. Candace, I know that's probably not exactly what you want to hear,
Okay, so meanwhile, since our meeting on Thursday. No, I actually had these Thursday. I did not talk to you guys about them. Ron Mills went through the capital improvement list of everything that we wanted to do, and he priced all the projects that we were going to do this next year. And when we had our meeting with Sil looked at it and felt that what we already have here in what we have for capital outlay for roads and water and parks was enough to cover all of the Rod's calculations for all the different projects.
and do we know, is that coming out of the capital improvements fund, or is it general funds?
It's on capital projects for roads. We've got 260,000 budgeted.
So it's coming out of our impact fees that we collected.
I can't tell you that. I wouldn't know. What is the answer on that?
I still didn't provide me the list of projects, so if it is a project that is upgrading a surface, then it's capital in nature. If it's a repair, then that is going to come out of
The general fund.
But in either case, we've got sufficient money, just trying to figure out which fund we're gonna draw.
Yes.
Because we've got 150,000 budgeted in capital outlay for Parks and Rec. And we have, 202.
So it's not capital.
It says capital improvements equipment.
Okay.
That's what you're
That's
looking
for.
we put 150,000 for that.
But that doesn't include the proposal cost plan that we have to do,
Yes,
but does.
it does. Then for roads, we have capital outlay 260,000 in the budget. And that includes all of these capital projects that Ron sat down and calculated the costs of those.
We're talking about capital projects, these projects in
Our capital improvements
facilities
plan,
plan.
the capital facilities plan, we are budgeting to do a new one. We are talking about our 5-year capital improvements plan.
That's just one thing we need to be mindful of, if we're using impact fees. It should be on capital improvement projects that are identified in our
And-
capital facilities
And
plan.
some are and some are not, so we'll have to make that proper distinction.
Yeah, so most of these are not impact fees. This would be coming out of the general fund. These are just repairs around town for various things. Also, and then for water department, we put, I don't know why, I'm not sure where we came up with 113,000 for capital expenditures in the water department.
I don't remember what, one should include a new study, but if not, I think it's for replacement of some of the old lines, in which case then it would not be impact fees.
Do you think there was a truck that's gonna be allocated between all departments?
Yes,
Yeah,
there
that's
is that, we're gonna be getting another truck for public works, and that's gonna be split among parks, roads, and water, and that is part of what's in here. I see here that Rod does say use available impact fee money for, some water lines. This is on page 1115 of our existing impact fee
The
study.
new water line to like cost connect and increase. Pressurization, equalize pressure. I mean, that type of thing, as long as that type of project is identified in our capital facility. If it's a new line, it just cross connects, but if it's replacing an existing line, then that's operation maintenance.
And it's not impact fees. I do not know, I have to look at
We
page
did have
11.
some replacements that were having to size up the line due to flow, and those would be capital.
And I think that's what
That's
these
what you kind of budget. It's how much is allocated to replacement, how much is allocated to oversize, creating additional capacity. That would be a proper use of it.
I believe we were trying to increase the size of them.
And can we get those numbers before the next meeting?
I will ask Rod, he's the one who he has use available impact fee money. And he has an arrow pointing to water lines, change pipeline along SR 9 from 8" to 10".
Okay, so that's an increase.
And if the water line doesn't need to be replaced for simply replacing for purposes of oversizing, you can lose 100% of it.
Impact fees.
I
But
think
again,
what
this-
Paul was asking is, can he have a copy of those projects?
Yeah.
Costs?
Yeah,
Of this?
Rod's pricing,
Yes.
yeah, Rod's, I
I
think
think
all,
they're estimating, their estimates.
all the
Yes.
town council is gonna want to see a copy of that.
Okay.
And me too, pick me.
Okay. all right.
And our account.
Copy of this. Okay. Yo. Post plan in budget. Makes me happy. Okay.
So what was the thinking in, like licensing and permits from this year's budget? They dropped them by like 50% on a couple of these items.
Because of concern that there would be a slowdown in the building.
Applications fees, half of last.
Okay, she's looking at licenses and permits. Last year, we budgeted $6,500 for business licenses, and next year, we're budgeting $4,000. And she's asking why.
Allocation, labor, staff
So,
costs.
so if you look at column 1, that is your current year through today.
3,500.
If you look at the budget, it was 6,500.
Mhm.
So we are correcting closer to what our actual is, because our business licensing only goes out once a year. So we're not expecting that number to really change between now and July. So next year, we do think that our budget should be closer to 4,000, not the 6,000 that was in the current budget for fiscal year 24.
And then, for example, under building permits, this past year, we budgeted 25,000.
So we have some,
But we're budgeting 10 next year.
when it comes to building, you have some very severe spikes and droughts. And so this, when we look at who brought in these building permits, significant portion of those were some of the commercial ones that have come in. And we don't have any crystal ball, but, so we try to keep that as conservative as possible. So historically, it's not been in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so we wanna make sure that we don't overestimate. So, I mean, they're definitely up for negotiation and understanding, but, the trend and the expectation is that building's not as booming like it was. And you've had some commercial properties that have come in and paid those and are still actively creating them, and we don't anticipate a high volume again for 24/7.
So what about that Class C road allotment? You budgeted not zero for, what exactly is?
Oh, are you looking at the April 4th? Is the thing you're looking at up here at the top?
Yeah.
Okay, because on April 11th, we've got 70,000 in there.
Oh, yeah, so that was just a oversight, sorry.
April, Crystal only put in everyone's packet the April 4th because that's what was posted on the Utah Public Works website. But since then, we sat down with Sil and Leroy and I, and we filled in some missing blanks. So go ahead and ask on some others that you may question.
So,
that they
well, I
put
mean,
in.
so like on the second page,
Okay.
page 4, there's a lot of zeros in there, and I just wondered,
Which one?
the miscellaneous revenue,
Miscellaneous,
4 of the April 4th.
miscellaneous revenue.
On
Oh,
the top of the page, and there's just a lot of,
they're all still zeros.
they're all still zero?
Yes, according to Sil, some of these we find out at the end of the year. What we don't know what those will be. The miscellaneous interest earnings for the cemetery, interest earnings, these are all interest earnings accounts on the miscellaneous.
So miscellaneous revenues are typically one and done or just offshoots, whether that's we have to get a engineer involved with some sort of making sure the plats and things, and those are directly reimbursed back to the town to cover those costs. And so when it comes to budgeting, we don't like those outliers and we don't want to anticipate them to be here. And we expect to have more money than we're actually gonna get, because those are usually, like, you'll have the revenue side because we have to, and then you'll have the expense side because we paid it out. And more we've been trying to arrange that the developer pays the engineer directly when it's a direct effect of their development rather than something the town needs done.
So as the year goes on,
You can't, I can't pay a private developers funds for me reviewing the plat or something like that. I have to be able to see they're my client, which engineers don't have that ethical obligation, attorneys we do. So yes, that is something that the town has to advance my fees, pay them, and then they collect them from the developer. And so oftentimes that's a break even. You see it as an expense on the expense side, you see it as miscellaneous income on the income side. Hopefully it should be roughly washing out.
so as the year goes on, some of these, we may have, money in these.
Yeah.
Towards the end of the year, like for example, I was just wondering if some of them could just go away, like BMX revenues.
That's
Yes,
That's
there'll be
fine.
some that we.
if you have the April 11th thing, it's gone, it's gone.
Yeah, definitely, we want to be succinct, but helpful in the information that we provide.
So they like the tariff related expenses and those things are probably gone.
Yeah. So typically on the budget, there's typically 2 to 3 years, so if it's something that's happened within that 3-year time span, you'll see columns in numbers in one column, but not in the column that we're necessarily addressing as the proposed budget.
Okay, so now do you have any questions in the expense categories? That was revenues.
We're turning the attorney to 0.
No.
Another friend, mine.
Where is that?
I'm just joking. Gene, that was a joke.
Oh, okay, I was like, I know exactly what we put in for the attorney. Okay.
I'm sorry, no teasing in a public meeting, my bad.
Okay.
Another response is coming out of accounting reduced.
Yeah. I was
I
really thought it was gonna say zero, it's gonna say, oh my God, what happened? Oh, okay,
So. We're anticipating $15,000 for July service celebration.
fine, where does it say 15?
Community recreation expenses.
Community.
Am I reading that right?
That's everything, not just for.
That's all town events, what are the total events for the year, or is that, it says 4th of July / town event, so that
Accomplishing all the events.
Okay.
We can remove the 4th of July out there, so it's not then.
Where are you looking? What's the?
Page 3,
Page 3?
community
10,
recreation.
67, 620.
Yeah,
1067. 620, okay, yeah, that could just say town events.
It's confusing, because
Well, we used to only do the 4th of July.
That's right.
We've expanded our horizon.
so that would be, maybe we can get one firework.
Okay, so we'll change that, we'll delete 4th of July from that, just have town
Yeah,
events.
that way it's like.
All right.
And Princess Cabinet, do we still do that?
No, we don't have, not unless we have someone who's old enough.
I don't want to remove it, I'm just asking.
No, it's, unless somebody comes to me and say we have enough people to participate in a princess pageant, we won't have one, but that's why we're gonna put 2,000. Just so there's something there.
Yeah.
Maybe doesn't want to do it.
I know, that's what I was about to
At
ask.
10? If it's performing, no.
So what else do you guys have as questions? That you would like to see in here, or I can answer for you that are in here?
So do we have, positions, funded for a town manager and planning?
No, well, I put in some money for a town planner. And, that is in here. And this is where at Thursday's meeting, Paul was asking if we could afford a town manager and a town planner at the same time. And I said, I don't know, we would have to check with legal to see whether or not we could. And then after that meeting, Paul and I have been texting back and forth or emailing. And he was proposing maybe we could have a combo town manager, town planner. And I said, I wasn't sure. I said that as busy as I am, I don't see how a town manager could also do the town planner stuff. But as Paul pointed out, a lot of what I'm doing is, I'm doing the mayor duties and the town manager. And once I take away the town manager duties from what I do, this town manager will not be as busy as me because I'm also doing mayor stuff.
So last year, we had a breakdown given to us. I think, I don't know if Candace did it or if Leroy did it, the positions and
Yes.
all of the salaries that are current.
Yeah.
And then also we had a thing that had the expected new, like these things we're talking about here. Can we get another breakdown like that?
Let's see, hold on, let me see if that's what this is I have here.
Yeah, because it had each position listed, their salary, their benefit, their. It had a,
This is, that's what this is. I have it.
okay, well, do you have one, Paul?
No, nobody does.
Yeah.
This was-
I would like, I'm requesting that so that I can properly vote on this.
Okay, yes.
Because that was my next, but that was my real only problem with the budget so far, was that I would like to see that breakdown again.
Okay. I see he's also got some assigned salaries, he's written down here about capital outlay, general fund, water fund, roads and parks. Are down at the bottom, all the rest of it has to do with how much we pay town council, mayor, planning zoning, planning zoning chair, and then all the employees. And then, yes, he has money in here for the town treasurer, we're gonna pay that. The new full-time person that we're looking for public works. But he just has full-time person, because, you know, that's in
Yeah,
public works.
and it doesn't, you don't have to put exactly who they are, I just would like to see that breakdown before I make my decision. Because I feel like it's,
This,
in this
I'm gonna have
budget, in this budget is hard, because it's separated out over funds instead of compiled into one for
And this, I'll have him update this first before I send it to you guys, because he has on here something where I decided I'd like to have a town planner, and I talked about the salary for that, and it's different from what is on here, so I'll have to do it in okay.
Thank you.
So, what's the thought about the town head?
Well, first thing is, do we have enough money? And I did talk to, Joe a little bit, because he used to be a town manager,
Joe?
Joe Decker.
Oh, okay.
And he gave me some suggestions also. One of the suggestions was, you might be able to, if we weren't quite right, I'd like to see if we have enough money to do it. But one of the other options is sometimes you can get a town manager that can do their capstone project as actual the town manager for 3 months with us. I mean, that's not a solution, but it at least tells us whether we would use them and whether the person would be good in that position.
Okay, because
I mean, it's one way to see if we really want to town manager.
okay, because I talked with Roger Carter, who's the local administrative advisor. And he said that if we want to go forward with getting a town manager, he's like, I can help you guys with that. I said, all right. The local administrative advisor is the program that was set up by the state. But,
It's administered by 5 counties down here.
right, but it was a program that was set up,
Funded by the state.
funded by the state, and it goes through every AOG, and, they have a local administrative advisor, and that person only helps towns that do not have a town manager. They, help with the issues that a town manager would help you with. So I've talked with Roger Carter, who is our local administrative advisor, quite a bit. And in fact,
And before he held that position,
he was the city manager of
He was
Washington for
Washington
years.
City manager, and before that, guess what he taught? He taught public administration to the master's students of the.
He's still teaching
Still.
public, he's still teaching the MPA
Yeah.
students at SUU.
So he knows this stuff.
Yeah, so that's why he said, if you guys decide you want a town manager, he said, I can so help you with that.
And he
He's
knows a
okay.
lot of students who are new coming out into it. He knows people who've been past students who are working, maybe they're working in some, place that is not as desirable as Spurgeon, and kick the feelers out too, to help us get the best applicant base possible.
And just so you know, did you download the app for the ULCT for the conference? There is a breakfast with the local administrative advisor. I think it's on Friday morning. Well, 5 counties sponsoring it, and it's all about meeting the local administrative advisor. So, we got it for breakfast on Friday. Okay. Is there anything else for us to discuss with regard to the budget? Or can we move on to our closed meeting? Now,
So let's just make sure we're on the same page as to what the next steps are.
okay,
Yeah, so as I understand it, you're gonna give us information on what Misty wanted, what that's,
yes, yes,
and then what Rod did, and
yes,
then we need to schedule a hearing. Another hearing,
correct.
and we should do that by resolution, shouldn't we? So,
we're talking about,
But the budget, actual budget hearing does not have to be scheduled by resolution.
Okay, that's what I said, just a motion of disposal.
And generally, I think that it's best to have, I think you guys probably may want to have a workshop, between now and then.
that's what I was wondering.
But I do think that you need to have a pretty firm, you can't have the budget in flux by the time you're noticing for that, for the official public hearing, it needs to be pretty.
Solid,
Pretty-
pretty set.
So we could just make our next work session an actual, just budget work session.
Yeah, okay, we can do that. So, so I'm going to get you guys this updated sheet with regard to salaries. Copies of Ron's calculations, what else?
And then, I guess
Oh,
information,
information whether we can afford a town manager.
yeah, and what range are we looking at?
I think that would be good input from Roger Carter. He would have probably the best feel of what city managers of different size municipalities are being paid. I don't know that there'd be anybody that would have a better beat on that.
Probably, yes, I would agree, Roger's probably the best, although, there is this, HR person that was recommended to me by Springdale that I used, a year or so ago. And he has a database of every salary of every public employee in the state. And you can just tell him, I need this, and he'll tell you what town, what this, and he'll tell you what salaries you should be looking at.
Utilize both?
What?
Utilize both.
Okay. So. Making sure there's anything else I'm supposed to give you guys.
When would that work meeting be?
Our work meeting would be,
It's in May, so it's the third, it kind of works funny because it's May calendar.
I was gonna say May, is that one of the ones that we have to change the date?
Yeah,
That's what I was trying to find out what we changed the dates to.
that was the one that we got to change the dates.
Great, scheduled for May 16th. You have it scheduled for May 9th.
Yeah, May 16th is the work session.
No,
16th?
Yes,
I think that.
we put it on the 9th and 16th.
no, for May 16th, it's a work session. We changed it from the 9th to
To
the
the
16th because the 21st
Okay,
is the town
got
meeting.
it, okay,
No,
that's right. Okay, the 16th.
So we're putting it on the 16th.
And that's here at 6 P.M.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. Now, before we go into the
Our regular meeting's the same, right?
what?
Is our regular meeting the same?
Yes, on the 21st. Okay, before we go on to our closed meeting, I just have to ask Bronwyn a question. All right. This has to do with what's going on with public hearing.
Okay.
Because we sent the code enforcement officer ordinance over to you guys, and I need the code enforcement officer to have a public hearing so that we can get it, so that we can hire this guy. I need to hire a code enforcement officer, so you don't have it. You do, okay, we just need to, the ordinance is already there, all it needs to do is be the public hearing. Okay, and the other one is, you had emailed Crystal that there was going to be the emergency ordinance that had to do with square footage. But then what's on SharePoint does not include that,
No, well.
because that ordinance is ready to go.
We were working on that. Well,
I've got a copy of it.
I know, but you don't know the other ordinances. We have,
What?
we have a traffic jam.
I know we have a traffic jam.
So the thing that we are working on, I've been working on it all day and all night last night, trying to figure out how to sort through. We can still get your ordinances through We'll just have it, if we have to, we aren't able to sort everything out this time, we'll do a public hearing the 1st of June, then we'll be able to do the votes in the 2nd week of June, and we'll still go through them.
Okay, but I need that signed, that emergency ordinance needs to is way more important than any of these others. This
So that
emergency,
emergency
we
ordinance-
put in this emergency ordinance and it needs to get worked on, it needs to get done. And
So,
it's
wait,
more
July,
important.
right?
We have until the end of July, but it
That's
can't
right.
just sit there and wait for June.
So it has been worked on a lot, it's getting worked on some more.
It needs to be on an agenda. It can't just be saying we're working on it at home, it's gotta be on the
It was
agenda,
on the last agenda,
okay?
it can be on the next agenda. It's not ready for public hearing, so
You can, as Heath has said, you can hold more than one public hearing, it's not just, you don't have to have it perfect and then have one public hearing. You can have multiple public hearings on an ordinance until it gets right, but, okay. If you don't have it, if this emergency ordinance is not on the May 1st public hearing that this is going out for tomorrow to get printed at the printer, it absolutely positively no way in. It absolutely has to be held in June.
I understand, I'm.
Okay, there is no two ways
100,000%
about it.
aware of that, I'm totally aware of that.
Okay,
And it might, if I don't need any sleep tonight, it might get on tonight.
I'm not saying you don't have to have any sleep tonight.
Well, okay, thank you.
It's just, in my mind, it's more important than some of these other things that are going on for.
Complex
But
solution.
that's my opinion.
Yeah, okay, all right, anything else?
No,
Okay, thanks.
okay. So now we can go to a closed meeting. There's nothing else.
Can we also take a recess?
Yes, yes, we can. We're gonna take a recess before we go into our closed hearing.
5 minutes recess.
Okay.
I think we need to.
Don't give it a hold on.
Yeah, we have a motion to go into the executive session cycle for a date and time, so that we can keep the public,
Okay,
then,
hold on,
then
guys.
wait for 5 minutes before.
Okay, you guys hold on before you walk out.
A motion
Hey, hold on. Okay,
Motion to close the public meeting and open the closed meeting for litigation and the purchase of real property. The closed meeting will take place in the old church at 114 South Mill Street, Virgin, Utah. In 5 minutes,
So,
which time is now 8:00.
Second,
we have to do a roll call vote, so I'll start with Misty.
Yes.
Jean, yes. Paul?
Aye.
April? Aye. All right, we are taking a recess. There it is. All right, now the public will go.